introduce myself, I am Rabbi Eli Edelkop, the Director of the European Jewish Development Fund, the financial arm of the European Jewish Association. Dear friends, it has been a long day. For some of you, it will have been your first time in Auschwitz. I understand very well how it feels. I have visited many times, and I can tell you that there is no number of visits that can make you understand the horror of this place. Each one of us carries the pain of Auschwitz in our hearts and minds, but it is not enough to feel pain, pity, or regret. We must do something, all of us together. But what is it? The late Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, wrote the following: if you were to ask what our response to the Holocaust should be, I would say this: marry and have children, bring new Jewish life into the world, build schools, make communities, pursue justice, defend the defenseless, have the courage to be different, and fight for dignity of the different. Recognize the image of God in others and defeat hate with love. By doing so, we bring more light into the world, making it a better place for all humanity. Tonight, after the weight of Auschwitz, let us focus on the positive things we can do together in order to make the world a better place. Tonight, we will hear from some of those who are fighting hate with love. But before that, let me start by introducing to you a bit more on what the European Jewish Association achieved in the year 2022.
Efforts on behalf of Jews in Europe matter and are making what makes the EJA the Jewish voice of Europe. Our efforts on behalf of Jews in Europe matter and are making a difference.
The European Jewish Association fills an essential role, working in conjunction with European institutions, the Parliament and regional and national parliaments, combating anti-Semitism in all its forms, empowering Jewish communities, and strengthening Jewish life all across the continent.
We are growing year after year, adding the voices of more and more communities and gaining more friends and influence in parliaments from Kyiv to Lisbon and everywhere in between.
We must ensure that Jews feel at home in Europe and are there proud of being European citizens. We do know that Europe can only prosper when its Jewish communities can prosper too.
We reach out, engage, help and problem solve for Jews everywhere.
On behalf of the thousands of refugees which we have managed to help, thanks to the European Jewish Association who was there for us from the very beginning, with a big financial support, with medical equipment, with religious equipment, throughout all the time, from the beginning.
It is why we are now representing over 400 Jewish communities in Europe and active in 45 countries across the continent.
My name is Rachaman Belenki from Kishinev, Moldova. I would like to thank European Jewish Association and Reb Menachem. Special thanks for the quick answer and help to our work the last 3.5 months with Jewish refugees from Ukraine, all over Ukraine.
We have had 502 diplomats attend EJA events.
I want to thank the speakers for educating me, becoming less naive, and I think we should, as politicians, we should step it up. And that's one of my jobs I will do in the European Parliament for the coming years. So thank you.
425 diplomats joined EJA's Not on My Watch campaign on the International Holocaust Remembrance Day. 89 journalists from 27 countries joined our 5 APA press trips to Israel in 2022.
APA operates independently as a peer-to-peer support for media professionals. Our activities have resulted in the publication of hundreds of unbiased articles, interviews, and other reports about various aspects of Israel, and we help journalists in Europe in their daily work, because seeing is believing.
135 journalists joined EJA briefings. 320,000 Jewish holiday kits were distributed in 650 Jewish communities. 100 students received scholarships to study at the Lauder Business School in Vienna. 1,530 students from 21 countries participated in our youth education projects. 68 young students joined EJA bootcamp programs on combating anti-Semitism.
This trip of EJA is very inspirational for me. I connected to many new people, we have new ideas, we talked to different regions and established some interesting plans for the future, so I'm very optimistic and I'm very grateful for the EJA to doing this for us.
105 rabbis attended conferences and seminars. 157 community leaders joined our annual Jewish Leadership Conference. 1,200 Jewish children attend our monthly educational programs. 4,500 Jews attend our weekly educational programs. 130 bar mitzvah kids joined our program in Israel. 2,500 people in need received daily hot meals. 574 people in need were helped at our 32 branches of medical equipment lending centers across Europe. The European Jewish Association, the Jewish voice of Europe.
Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for the EJA team who work day and night throughout the year and especially who made this delegation possible. Let's give them a round of applause. It is now my great pleasure and honor to introduce the chairman of the European Jewish Association, a close friend, Rabbi Menachem Margolin, who founded EJA and who has transformed it to the most dynamic and engaged organization for European Jewry. Rabbi Margolin, the floor is yours.
Excellencies, President of the European Parliament, Secretary of the French National Assembly, Commissioner Varhelyi, Prime Minister of Montenegro, the Ambassador of Israel to the European Union and NATO, and his wife, Mr. Alexander Mashkevitz, founder of Euro-Asian Jewish Congress and great supporter, rabbis, Jewish leaders, ladies and gentlemen, I deeply appreciate each one of you for taking the time to join this delegation. Auschwitz is not a pleasant place to be. It is a place that overwhelms everyone with emotions, pain, and anger. The Holocaust is the greatest tragedy that happened to the Jewish people. But this is not the only one. In almost every generation, the Jewish people experienced anti-Semitism and death. And there is a big question that many people ask, and maybe some of you asked this question before. How does it make sense that reasonable people continue to live Jewish lives, continue to raise Jewish children, even those we know that our children will experience anti-Semitism and hatred? The answer is, the Jewish people believe that we carry an absolute and unlimited responsibility and obligation to make the world a good place. The Jewish people are the proof that no matter how hard it is, faith is stronger. And anyone who tries to bury us will discover that we are seeds. In Kristallnacht, which we mark today, they broke synagogues, so we built synagogues. They made Jews hide, we make them proud of their Jewishness. There are those who condemn the fact that this very dark night is called the Kristallnacht. But we are here to turn this horrible history into a crystal that will illuminate the continent of Europe and the whole world. There were many empires that we learn about them only in history lessons, while the Jewish people are still here. This is the true regarding the responsibility of the Jewish people, but it's also the true regarding the responsibility of every person in the world, especially the decision makers. If there is a deep determination to maintain democracy, tolerance, respect and freedom of religion, we will succeed. We will succeed together with joint forces to ensure a much better future for the humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, in the last month, the world media has dealt with the anti-Semitic incitements of Kanye West. Within a few hours, many big companies, led by Adidas, decided to stop their business relationship with him. It was excellent news to see that more and more people in the world understand that they cannot stand by when someone spread hatred that can multiply and incite innocent people. Adidas estimated that this decision will cause them great financial damage. But we believe and we are sure that this merit and positive action will actually bring them blessing and success. The European Jewish Association has decided to award the 2023 King David Award to Adidas for standing by justice and honesty. On this occasion, and while having with us enough video cameras and photographers, I kindly would like to ask everyone to stand and applaud Adidas company for this brave decision. We informed the chairman of Adidas about our decision, and we're looking forward to meeting him in the coming days. The European Jewish Association came into being because of a pressing need to ensure that Jewish voice is heard loud and clear across Europe, to speak truth to power, promoting and protecting Jewish values and defending the state of Israel, and to show above all the Jews in Europe should be proud of their identity, proud of who we are, and proud of our tradition and practice. We are Europeans, we are one, and we have much, just like generations of Jews before us, to contribute to making the world a better place. Thank you all very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi Margolin. All our activities wouldn't be possible without the support of people who care for what we do. One of them is here with us today, and we would like to express our gratitude and appreciation for giving us the support we need to help us achieve our mutual goals together.
Alexander Mashkevitz was born in Kyrgyzstan during the communist era, when religious observance was strictly forbidden. His parents, Anton and Rachel Mashkevitz, were refugees of war-torn Europe who educated their son to love and give to his fellow Jews. Both paradigms of giving, Rachel, a lawyer, generously abetted anyone in need of legal assistance, and Anton, who was a doctor, devotedly treated many patients. Since the fall of the Iron Curtain, Mr. Mashkevitz has dedicated great efforts on behalf of the Jewish people. Over the years, he's funded construction of synagogues, mikvaos, Jewish kindergartens, and elementary schools, and he liberally supports many institutions and individuals in need. During times of challenge and times of ease, he gives generously of his energies to advance Jewish causes, increase tolerance, and champion peace among nations. As a true leader and inspiration to many, Mr. Mashkevitz does not suffice with giving on his own, but rather encourages friends and colleagues to join him in supporting charitable causes and connect to their Jewish heritage. In the last few years, Mr. Mashkevitz has taken on the challenge of promoting Judaism in Europe. He generously supports a wide spectrum of activities and projects to strengthen Jewish identity in Europe, and spearheads the campaign to promote Jewish rights and increase support of Israel.
Dear Alexander Mashkevitz, I am very honored to give you my blessings and my appreciation on the occasion that you won the award of Sir Moshe Montefiore. Let his memory be blessed. As far as I know your activity, your leadership, and your achievements, you are going in the way, maybe the third in the line of Baron Benjamin Rothschild, Sir Moshe Montefiore, and now Alexander Mashkevitz. Not only helping financially synagogues, communities all over Europe, in Eretz Israel as well, but also to be involved in the problems of our time, fighting anti-Semitism, fighting all kinds of hatred between nations, between people. The one who fights it, the one who is promising us a better world, are you, Alexander Mashkevitz. As far as I know, as far as I have heard, your reputation is so good, so well all over the world, that we need the blessing from the Lord Almighty to give you good health and long life and a lot of happiness.
I know Mr. Mashkevitz for many, many years. And if there's one thing I could say about him, that it's very hard to say about other people. He never refused to get himself involved when he feels that he is needed. I called Mr. Alexander Mashkevitz as the Mr. Montefiore of our generation. Like Mr. Montefiore back then, he's a great leader that helped Jewish communities, but not only Jewish communities. He helps every time he feels that he needs to help to make this world a better place. That's what makes Mr. Alexander Mashkevitz a great example to many of his friends.
We are now proud to invite Mr. Alexander Mashkevitz to the stage to receive the prize in name of Montefiore.
I would like to call on stage Mr. Alexander Mashkevitz to receive the EJA Montefiore Appreciation Award. I would like also to invite on stage Rabbi Margolin, Mrs. Regina Sokowolski-Sluzny, and Chief Rabbi of the Netherlands, Rabbi Jacobs. Please join us on stage.
Just before the award will be given, Mr. Mashkevitz, I would like to tell you what I am holding here. One second. Okay. This is a newspaper, as you all could see. It was printed in November 1917. It is 106 years ago. It's an original copy of the Times. And this is a copy of the newspaper where for the first time it was published the following article. Palestine for the Jews government pledge, the Declaration of Balfour was printed for the first time, and this is the original copy of the papers that announced about that, November 9, 1917. There is no greatest friend to the state of Israel and to the Jewish people than you, and we are very happy to honor you with this gift. The European Jewish Association Sir Montefiore Award to Mr. Alexander Mashkevitz, with deep appreciation and respect for your work that enabling us to promoting and supporting the Jewish people in all adventures. Mr. Mashkevitz.
Distinguished guests, dear friends, great honor for me to be here today. And I will tell you from my heart, everything from Hashem, everything from God. And it's great privilege for me to have opportunity to do something for people. It's great privilege. Every day I pray 3 times a day and thank Hashem, thank God, He gave to me such opportunity. And thank Him for everything. You know, my dear friends, my mother, her name Rachel, was born in Belarus, in Vitebsk. She escaped from Nazi last moment. She catch train last moment. If she would come 5 minutes later, it was last train from Vitebsk. She would, God forbid, she would be in Auschwitz, in Birkenau. I would not be here. She got a train with, not for passengers, she got train for animals. And she survived. And you know, my dear friends, the biggest difference between animals and people, animals don't have memory. That's why till people have memory, there is chance. It's not for sure, but there is chance we could never repeat what happened here. What happened here, it doesn't matter in which nations, it doesn't matter in which country, it doesn't matter in which time. If we will have memory, it chance we will never repeat it. And I appreciate you from my heart. I admire you, everybody who are here. You contribute your time. You contribute your soul, you contribute your heart to make life better. To make life better, it's main mission of human beings, main mission. And my father, he was born in Vilna. In this moment, it was Poland. And all his life, he was very proud to speak Polish. And today, Polish people give to whole world very good example how we have to take care about people who are suffering. They share with them their space where they live. They share with them their soul. They share with them all their life. It's a good example. And I wish you to everybody never be tired to make life better. Never be exhausted to help people. Believe me, God will give to you 1 million times more to you, to your children, to your grandchildren, what you do for people. I really admire you. I appreciate you. I wish you health, happiness, success. And to be really happy to live in this world. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, while the first course will be served, I would like to introduce to you a special singer who came especially from Israel for this event. Mati Arama is an orphan and stutters, and there is a connection between the two. Mati's father was murdered in a terrorist attack in Israel just because he was Jewish in front of his eyes when Mati was only 10 years old. As a result of this traumatic incident, Mati began to stutter. Today, with his personal story, he helps children in similar situations to overcome their fears and trauma. Together with Mati, on the guitar, we have Mr. Kfir Avivi. Mati and Kfir, the floor is yours.
live in a plea the Lord, but you don't really care for music, do you? It's go like this before the fifth, the minor fall and the major lift, the powerful king component, hallelujah, 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 Your face was strong, but you needed proof. Your saw her breathing on the roof. Her beauty and the moonlight overthrew you. She tied you to her kitchen chair. She broke your throne and she cut your hair. And from your lips she drew the hallelujah. 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 I did my best, it wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I've told the truth, I didn't come to fool you. And even though it all went wrong, I stand before the Lord of Song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah. 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 blood will flow, my flesh is still a one. drying in the color of the evening sun. Tomorrow's rain wash these days away. But something in our mind will always stay. Perhaps this final act was meant to clench a lifetime's argument. Nothing comes from violence, and nothing ever could. For all those born beneath an angry star, lest we forget how fragile we are. On and on the rain will fall, like tears from a star, like tears from a star. On and on the rain will sing, how fragile we are, how fragile we are. On and on the rain will fall, like tears from a star, like tears from a star. On and on the rain will sing, how fragile we are, how fragile we are, how fragile we are, how fragile we are. Thank you.
Imagine this: being sent away by your parents for your own safety, hidden far away for years, and taken in by righteous strangers who protected you from death because you're Jewish. You ended up with two sets of parents. How would you feel? What would you do? Baroness Regina Sokoworski-Sluzny, a Holocaust survivor, was a hidden child and spent her life teaching young people in schools and universities about the dangers of hate and the power of hope. In between all of this work, she was recognized and appreciated by Belgium's king and society in general. Regina is also the president of the Forum of the Jewish Communities of Antwerp. Regina, please, the floor is yours.
Let me please start with thanking Rav Margolin and long health to you and your wife and the children. As you heard, I'm a survivor. I was 2.5 years, and I was very lucky that I was a blonde little girl. So I could go down from hiding place and meet my savers, the best people I've ever met. They had no children. They had 3 little cats. And when the lady put out the food for the cats, we were hungry, I went and took the food from the cats. So she understood that we needed some food. And these people had a food shop. So she would give me regularly food for me, for my parents, and my two brothers. We all survived, but I didn't see my parents for 3.5 years. And when my mom came to pick me up, I said, "Bonjour, madame," because I didn't know who she was. But it's a story I tell for 1.5 hours in school to youngsters from about 12 till university, and also grown-up people if they want to listen to me. Because we are all the same. We don't choose where we want to come into the world. It's done for us. So we have to accept everybody. And I can say that it is possible, all of us, to live together in peace, in love, because I lived with my Christian and my Orthodox Jewish people all my life. Well, when they passed away, I had to bury both of them. So I have 2 Christian people buried in Belgium, and I treat them like Jewish people, because normally after 50 years, they would disappear. Well, mine are still there. And my parents are in Har HaZitim, Olives, and I can go to Israel and speak with them and thank them, as I do that in Belgium for my Christian parents. So don't tell me that we need war. We don't need war at all. We have to love each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Ladies and gentlemen, our next guest story is a powerful one. Her grandmother, surviving the Holocaust, builds a life and a beautiful family in Paris. And at the age of 85, she was murdered in her flat in an anti-Semitic hate crime. Keren Knul, thank you for traveling from Israel to be with us. The floor is yours.
Today we walked through the gates of hell, a vision of one man, an execution of too many. The war is over, but for us, the battle is daily. Blame it on the Jews. They're wealthy and successful. First, not all of us. And those who do worked very hard for it. I was an immigrant once. I lived in Paris when I was 7 years old to come to Israel. I knew nothing. Hebrew was a language that I didn't understand. The kids were mean, and I hated it. But I persisted, and I learned the language, and I learned the culture, and I made myself a part of the society. I served my country for 10 years. I was a captain in the Israeli army. While I was working, I studied and paid for my degrees. I'm a mother of 2, working 190 hours per month. Believe me when I say, success has nothing to do with religion, and everyone can. In Israel, we're learning about the Holocaust at a very young age. We all know about Nazis' atrocities. How many of you have Holocaust education in your countries? That's it? Okay, some hope. Thank you. We need to change the next generation and people in general perception. We need to educate them, and this is your responsibility of leaders. My grandmother was murdered 4 years ago. It's been 4 years that I'm wondering daily why.
Valeurs niées par le terroriste de Trèbes. Valeurs niées par le meurtrier de Mireille Knoll, qui a assassiné une femme innocente et vulnérable parce qu'elle était juive, et qui ainsi a profané nos valeurs sacrées et notre mémoire.
Look at her. Look at my beautiful, amazing grandmother. "85 years old, stabbed 11 times and burned only for being Jewish. Who deserved this?" Mireille Knoll murder was the first anti-Semitic crime recognized by the French state. But we all know it wasn't the first. And we all know it isn't the last. Judophobia, anti-Semitism, it's not the Jewish problem. It's everyone's problem. Extreme fanatics are everyone's problem. And until we not address it like that, the problem won't be solved. We need to speak up when people making false assumptions. We need to educate people, to show them how, and to implement the changes so they have a real impact. Take for this delegation all you can and make a real change. Don't let Mireille Knoll murder be in vain. Don't wait for the next catastrophe to happen. I urge you to act and to react starting now.
Karen, thank you for those powerful words, and we hope to see a real change in our society. Dear friends, earlier I spoke of extraordinary individuals. Some are found within Jewish communities, and some become our champions because they understand very well that what starts with the Jews doesn't end with the Jews. They defend Jews, they respect our faith and our contribution over thousands of years toward shaping Europe in morals, ethics, science, literature, the arts and medicine. They defend us because we are a reflection of the European values of freedom of speech and religion that they hold dear. Ladies and gentlemen, we first met Mrs. Roberta Metsola when she was a vice president of the European Parliament. It was during the middle of COVID. We were amazed that this lady from Malta, whose Jewish community is tiny compared to France or the UK, put so much of her effort to stand beside us. We were delighted when Mrs. Metsola was elected to be the president of the European Parliament. Often, when someone becomes a very important person, a president or prime minister, they are always occupied with a busy schedule. By being here today, it is a confirmation of her deep commitment to Jews in Europe. Time and time again, she has spoken up for us. Time and time again, she has called out anti-Semitism as a threat to Europe. As she told the Knesset this year, to be anti-Semitic is to be anti-European. As anti-Zionism becomes bigger across Europe, she also said, let me be clear, Europe will always back Israel's right to exist. Mrs. Metsola, you are a true friend. You have lifted us up. You have made our fight your fight. And just as you keep us in your thoughts and actions as the President of the European Parliament, so too we keep you in ours. But we want to honor you and say thank you on behalf of all the hundreds of Jewish communities that we represent across Europe. This is why it is our great pleasure and honor to present you with the European Jewish Association King David Award for 2022, in recognition of all your work, past, present, and future, for Jews in Europe. Madam President, please join us on stage to receive your award. I would like also to invite on stage Rabbi Margolin, Mrs. Regina Sokowolski-Sluzny, Mr. Alexander Mashkevich, His Excellency Mr. Chaim Regev, the Ambassador of Israel to the EU and NATO.
This is the King David Award that Europe bring light. It's an award to Ms. Roberta Metsola, President of the European Parliament, with recognition and gratitude for your work in lifting up and protecting Jewish communities across the continent.
Thank you so much to the European Jewish Association for this wonderful organization, Rabbi Menahem Margolin, members of the association, ambassadors, commissioner, distinguished guests, Prime Minister. Today was my first time at Auschwitz-Birkenau. I must say I struggled to comprehend how a quiet part of the world, surrounded by beautiful birch trees, provided the setting for the worst crime that man has ever seen. And Rabbi, you were right today. Everyone in the world should come here. Everyone in the world should know the depths to which man has sunk to and the horror that stems from indifference. It was hard not to imagine the shadows of the lives that we walked in today. The mothers separated from their babies, the parents powerless to protect their children, the screams, the terror, the fear reverberated in the silence of the leaves falling to ground. But even among that horror, I found hope. I saw resilience. I recognized fortitude. People who, despite the humiliation, the torture, the hate, stood up to warn the world. A warning that we must repeat again and again, especially when the voices of the last survivors fall silent. I think it was Roman Kent who said, Auschwitz did not fall from the sky. It was the result of years, generations of propaganda, dehumanization, the need to always blame the other. Every time I visit a synagogue in Brussels, in Vienna, or anywhere around Europe, I remain struck by the fact that the entrances are always barricaded with security apparatus. It drives home the message that anti-Semitism is still rife in our societies, that 84 years since Kristallnacht, genuine fears still exist, that despite decades of effort, we have not yet done enough to end the scapegoating, to end the discrimination. We have not yet done enough to make everyone, every citizen in Europe, unafraid to be themselves and worship as they like. That, as we heard today, too many children still do not feel safe saying that they are Jewish. Too many mothers still worry. Too many people still live with suitcases packed, and too many still without the freedom to just live as they choose, without fear. That is our collective failure, but our collective challenge, and one that ours is one for our generation to meet. Karen, thank you for sharing, but also for pushing us to action. Thank you for not letting us get out of this room by just patting ourselves on the back that we're doing enough. We are absolutely not. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor and a privilege to be receiving the King David Award. But above all, I want to assure you that I received this award on behalf of the European Parliament with great responsibility. A few colleagues of mine are here tonight. It will serve as a continuous reminder of those heinous crimes committed against humanity in the past, and to recall the importance of speaking up in defense of our common values today. Earlier this year, I visited Israel, making my first state visit out of Europe. There, I visited Yad Vashem, where I emphasized the importance of keeping the memory of the victims of the Holocaust alive, and to teaching our children tolerance and respect. But I am deeply aware that the responsibility that we must carry must also start within our own homes. Holocaust deniers, conspiracy myths, disinformation, and violence of every kind that targets and singles out members of our communities have no place in Europe. The European Parliament understands this, and as a symbol of our duty to never forget, let me reiterate my intention of having a permanent Holocaust memorial in the European Parliament. 40 years ago today, Simone Veil held the same role that I hold. The first president of a democratically elected European Parliament was herself a Holocaust survivor, a former inmate of Auschwitz-Birkenau. For me, this fight is not only institutional, it is also deeply personal. And as I accept this award, I recall the words of Simone Weil: "The Holocaust is the heritage of us all, and I pledge to honor the legacy of the Shoah victims by never forgetting, by never being indifferent, and by always, always speaking up." Thank you.
Thank you again to our friend Mrs. Metzola for your gracious and inspiring words. While the main course will be served, I have the pleasure to invite Mati and Kfir on stage. Thank you.
Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us. Above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Yeah.
Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do. Nothing to kill or die for. And no religion too. Imagine all the people living life in peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one.
Imagine no positions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. Brother imagine all the people sharing all the wars. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us, and the world but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you will join us, and the world will be as one. תודה רבה. Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because the vision softly creeping left its eyes I was sleeping, and the vision that we planted in my brain still remains within the sound of silence. In recent dreams I walked alone. Now our streets are cobblestone. Near the halo of the street lamps, I tune my color to the cold and damp. When my eyes were struck by the flash of a neon light that split the night, in the dark of silence, in the naked night I saw 10,000 people, maybe more, people talking without speaking, people hearing without listening, people writing songs that voices never share, and no one there disturbed the sound of silence. People bought their train to the neon god they made, and the sound flashed out its warning, and the words that it was for me, and the sign said the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls and tenement halls, and whisper in the sound of silence. מי יודע כל כן, מי רופא לשבור אליהם, יוצר אור החושך, עושה שלום ומלחמה, מי יושב על כיסא דין, מתכסה ברחמים, מוחל וסולח, מביט resurrect with open hands, with warm embraces, and if you let me see, who am I to be? Feel like a stone washed upon the shore. Tell me that you will care for me. I fear for my life. Promise me that I won't disappear. La 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 la. אל מי אני מתגעגע כמו ים שלא חור. רק תגיד לי מי יחבק אותי ויבטיח שאני לא אכנע בסוף. Promise me that I won't disappear. Thank you very much. כשהלב בוכה, רק אלוהים שומע. הכאב עולה מתוך הנשמה. אדם נופל לפני שהוא שוקע. בתפילה קטנה חותך את הדממה. שמע ישראל אלוהי, אתה כל יכול. נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, הלב בוכה בשקט. וכשהלב שותק, הנשמה זועקת. שמע ישראל אלוהי, עכשיו אני לבד. חזק אותי אלוהי, עשה שלא אפחד. הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח. עשה שיגמר כי לא נותר בי כוח. כשהלב בוכה הזמן עומד מלכת. האדם רואה את כל חייו פתאום. אל הלא נודע הוא לא רוצה ללכת. ולאלוהיו קורא על סף תהום. שמע ישראל אלוהי, אתה כל יכול. נתת לי את חיי, נתת לי הכל. בעיניי דמעה, הלב בוכה בשקט. וכשהלב שותק, הנשמה זועקת. שמע ישראל אלוהי, עכשיו אני לבד. חזק אותי אלוהי, עשה שלא אפחד. הכאב גדול ואין לאן לברוח. שיגמר, כי לא נותר בי כוח. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mati and Kfir. Ladies and gentlemen, if there was a real-life League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, European Commissioner Olivier Varelli would be at the top of it. Should I repeat? Ladies and gentlemen, if there was a real-life League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, European Commissioner Olivier Varelli would be at the top of it. When the situation in Ukraine became dangerous, Commissioner Varelli worked closely with the Federation of Jewish Communities of Ukraine to evacuate more than 30,000 Ukrainian people to safe zones. Together, they mobilized 500 volunteers to support citizens and deliver thousands of packages of basic emergency supplies, mainly food and medicines, across 180 communities in Ukraine. The communities of Ukraine are so grateful to you, and we are delighted to be joined by Rabbi Rothman, Vice President of the Federation of Jewish Communities of Ukraine, who wanted to come and say thank you to you in person. Standing up for Israel in the European institution is not easy, but when something is right, it is right. And when your conviction is clear, nobody can intimidate you or change your mind. So it is with Commissioner Varelli. When we invited the Commissioner to address our conference with Israeli Minister Pnina Shatta in Brussels, that conviction was on display in strong words. Like Mrs. Metzola, in the duty of Europe to defend against terror and hate. He understands that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are one and the same. He said clearly, and I quote, "What starts with incitement to hatred and violence becomes terror and prevents coexistence. It is not enough to talk about it. We need to act, and we need to act now. The EU cannot be a credible actor, neither in Europe nor in the Middle East and beyond, if we do not deliver on these fundamental commitments. Commissioner Varelli, you welcome the resumption of the EU-Israel Association Council. You bring balance, wisdom, and common sense to the table, and Jews across Europe are deeply grateful to you and your work. When you speak of Israel, you make us all very proud. And we are proud to present you with the Jerusalem Award. The award shows a strong hand holding up Jerusalem. May you always have the strength to do so for many, many years. Commissioner Varelli, please join us on stage to accept your award. I would like to invite also Rabbi Margolin on stage, Rabbi Rothman from the Federation of the Jewish Community of Ukraine, Mr. Kalman Saleh from the Action and Protection League, Mr. Alexander Mashkevich, His Excellency Mr. Chaim Regev, the Ambassador of Israel to the EU and NATO. Please come on stage.
inscription reads, awarded to Mr. Oliver Varhelyi, European Commissioner for Neighborhood and Enlargement, in recognition and gratitude for your work in standing up for Israel and the Jewish people and the Ukrainian people.
Well, dear Rabbi Margolin, dear President of the Parliament, dear Roberta, dear members of the Jewish community, dear Prime Minister, first of all, I never would have thought that it's going to be here that I meet so many friends. This is the first wisdom of the day. The second wisdom of the day for me was that the only way to defeat death or the Holocaust is to bring life. Only life can defeat death. So this prize today is priceless for me because, of course, we are all working for one cause, to make the world a better place. But you have to start somewhere, so I started here. And I think that those who are working tirelessly, like my good friend, have shown the world that we can change it. We can save lives, we can save people today, and this is our job. Because today we are commemorating the legacy of the Kristallnacht. Don't forget. We have to honor the victims of the Shoah by standing up for those who are living, and we need to save them also from Ukraine as we speak, but we also have to stand up for them and their memories every day, everywhere. Because, of course, much has been told about the Holocaust and the unforgivable sin by the Nazis, and it is, of course, very difficult to talk about it. But still, I think we should talk about it, and maybe we should talk about it in a way, in the language that our generation understands. And this could be the bridge, maybe, from never again to how to make Europe a Europe that has been there at the beginning of the century, when Jewish life was flourishing. And our job is to bring back Jewish life as it was before the Holocaust. It's quite a challenge, but I think we have already started working on that together. And this is why I think that if we want to keep the memory of the Shoah alive in the future, we have to create a new era based on this. And this era must be done together with the people. Because we can preach, we can craft messages, speeches, but it is the people who change the world. Because an era in which anti-Semitism, hatred to violence, incitement are on the rise again are not going to bring this. We see terrorist attacks on synagogues, we see hate speech online and offline, we see murders, we see Jews being harassed by simply for the fact of wearing a kippah in a public place. And we see demonstrations in Europe, again, against Jews. And we have seen this before. This is crude anti-Semitism. And anti-Semitism brought along also anti-Zionism. Anti-Zionism, which I think is also a denial of Jewish life. Because Jewish life is rooted in Zionism. There's no other way So standing up against anti-Semitism is something that we have to not only repeat, but we have to make it very clear that this is not only not negotiable, but this is not a question of majorities. This is not a question of procedures. This is a core value. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are we doing to bring life back? We have been engaging together with the State of Israel in quite challenging times to change the minds in Europe about Judaism, about the Jewish culture, and the major contribution it has always given to Europe. For me, it is very clear that we have to go down and work with the people. I give you some examples that we are working on. You know, I'm not only responsible for Israel, I'm also responsible for other countries. I'm responsible for 22 countries. And I remember vividly when entering the Commission, I thought that it's obvious to everyone what I think, but it wasn't. And that it was obvious for everyone what needs to be done, but it wasn't. But I'm very proud that more and more it becomes obvious what needs to be done, even if they don't like it. And this is why I'm very proud that we are not only defending Jewish life in Europe, but also around Europe. Because don't forget that the EU is not Europe. The continent is much bigger, and Jewish life is much bigger than the continent. This is why we're working on a cemetery and a synagogue in Bosnia-Herzegovina. This is why in Ukraine we're working together. This is why in Morocco we are having projects, and this is why we are engaging with the State of Israel on the new language. The new language which is called the Abraham Accords. Because that is the only way to bring peace, stability, and prosperity forward. Not only for Europe and in Europe, but beyond. And this is why I think Europe should start learning this language. And maybe even speak that language. In addition, we are also taking decisive steps to address the foundations for peace. And this is why we are resolute to make sure that no EU funds can contribute to incitement to hatred. This is why we are committed not to share any of European funds to organizations or people who are inciting to hatred, violence or terrorism, who are not complying, be it their educational system or other, with basic standards. Because anti-Semitism, incitement to hatred and violence, glorification of terrorism has no place in classrooms, be it in the EU or outside the EU, and EU taxpayers shall not fund it. And last, but certainly not least, we are of course working with the Jewish community to bring the everyday life back, meaning that people should be proud of being Jew. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Varela, for your kind words and actions. You are a true inspiration to all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, there are some countries that are putting more effort into fighting anti-Semitism than most. Our next speaker is from Montenegro, small country, but with a giant heart. A country that received the King David Award 2 years ago for its incredible work on how they welcome their vibrant and growing Jewish community. This country is a special one, not just because my cousin, Rabbi Ari Edelkop, who is here with us today, the chief rabbi of Montenegro, but because respect for diversity and difference goes right up to the very top. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a tremendous honor for me to introduce our next speaker for you tonight, His Excellency, Mr. Dritan Abazovic, the Prime Minister of Montenegro.
Dear Rabbi Margolin, Madam President of European Parliament, dear Commissioner Varheli, my brother Sasha Machkevich, my friends, Ambassador of Montenegro, Chief Rabbin of Montenegro, all and others, I want to change a little bit of my speak. I will not read what I prepare. Just because of one reason, because tonight I feel so familiar and so comfortable. It's easy to be on the right side. Maybe body sometimes not feel comfortable, but soul feeling comfortable. So message is that we always need to be on the right side. And right side is to protect human rights, to protect universal values, to promote the peace, to promote the human rights, to promote everything what give the love to the people. Dear friends, we cannot change the past. Only what we can change is the future. It's the honor of the life of every leader in the world to serve for our own country. And it's also my honor. But it's not enough to serve for your country and your citizen. It's honor to give the hand to others. The small Montenegro give the hand, give the hug to others. I am proud that my country is the country when Jewish are more than welcome. Is the country with not anti-Semitism. Is the country which not provide any kind of death or killing during Second World War. It was different. We provide the protecting of Jewish people in our territory. Montenegro can be the positive example, also for some much more developed European countries. Montenegro is the country we try to give the best to everybody feel very comfortable. I will speak just a little about my story. When I come to the office, one of my first decisions was to give the permission for registration of Jewish community in Montenegro. And I hope that we will soon come to another important decision to make the first synagogue in our country. The way how we sharing the values, how we contribute to the people, is the way how we will see our future. I know that we are in the place when what's very sad to be today. Also for me was first time in Auschwitz. And I think the duty for every leader is to come to Auschwitz. We need to learn what exactly happened, and we need to pass the message to every single generation of people to not repeat, never in history, these kind of things. We can change only the future. I think, and I want to conclude in positive way, like Sasha did, I think that we all together can make the miracle. Miracle is to understand same the words, or dear Madame, which say that war and violence is not solution. Peace and love is the solution. And yes, we have some difference, but we have much more things which bring us together. Let's promote that kind of things. Let's give the contribution from every position we are. In the end of the day, we are all citizens, we are all people, human beings, and our duty is to give the hand and share the love and peace with the people. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I feel very glad tonight. I want to thank you for organization, to dear Rabin. I want to congratulate one more time to the people with Get Award tonight, and to invite all of you, if you want to see the country which is Jewish friendly, welcome to Montenegro. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for being with us and sharing those warm and important words. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. Enjoy the rest of your meal. I would like to call on stage again world-renowned singer Mati and Kfir. Please be seated while dessert is being served. You may be seated while dessert is being served.
Israel,
גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד.
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד.
והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל.
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד.
כל העולם כולו גשר צר מאוד, גשר צר מאוד. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד, לא לפחד כלל. והעיקר, והעיקר, לא לפחד כלל. שימור חי, ואני עוד חי, ושתי עיניי עוד נישאות לאור.
רבים חוכי, אך גם ברכה, ולפניי שנים רבות מספור.
אני שואל ומתפלל, טוב שלא עבדה עוד התקווה. חי, 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 אין אני עוד חי. זה השיר של סבא, שר אתמול לאבא, והיום אני עוד חי, 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 עם ישראל חי. זה השיר של סבא, שר אותו לאבא, והיום אני
שימו אחד, אני עוד חי, ושתי עיניי עוד נישאות לאור.
רבים חוכי, אך גם פחי, ולפניי שנים רבות מספור. אני שואל ומתפלל, טוב שלא עבדה עוד התקווה. חי, 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 עם ישראל חי. זה השיר של סבא, שר אתמול לאבא, והיום אני עוד חי, 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 עם ישראל חי. זה השיר של סבא, שר אתמול לאבא, והיום אני.
Thank you very much. תודה רבה.
Please be seated. Thank you, Mati and Kfir. Dear friends, as our evening draws to a close, a quick reminder. We have heard tonight from inspiring people, from survivors, from senior politicians, from those who make our work possible, but we want to speak about the future. What legacy will we leave for the next generation of Jews? What are their hopes and fears? For the EJA, the voice of our youth matters. As John F. Kennedy once said, the Jewish people, ever since David slew Goliath, have never considered youth as a barrier to leadership. It is my great pleasure to introduce a young Jewish leader whose potential is endless. President of Public Affairs at the Federation of Young Jews in Spain, Mr. Juan Rodriguez Caldes.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for being here with us on such an important occasion, commemorating the 84th anniversary of Kristallnacht. First of all, I would like to thank my dear colleagues at the European Jewish Association for letting me stand here as a young, proud European Jew. Just when we thought that with the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, the world would have learned its lesson and anti-Semitism would be finally wiped off the earth, we see that is not the case. Leolam Lo'od, an expression that most of you have probably heard at some point during your life. Never again, we say year after year. But yet, anti-Semitism still does exist in our society. And not only that, but unfortunately, we see it drastically rising. Old libels and conspiracy theories that we thought were part of the past, such as the Jews run the banking industry, the media, Hollywood, and so on, seem to have made their way back to the political and everyday discourse. How could this be possible in 2022? What went wrong? Was the systematic extermination of 1/3 of European Jews carried by Nazism not enough? John Stuart Mill once said, bad men need nothing more to compass their ends than that good men should look on and do nothing. In other words, indifference gives space for any evil ideology to spread around. And so doing the right thing is usually and paradoxically the most difficult thing to do. I have always believed that a society's strength is not determined by its resources, but rather the level of education that it provides to its citizens. Being a leader means above all that one has to set the highest moral standards and lead by example with honesty and integrity. Our current globalized and interconnected world needs more leaders with a vocation of public emerging all decision makers, be it at the European level in Brussels or at the national level across this great continent, to start making important decisions in combating anti-Semitism in order to secure a prosperous future for the European Jewish youth. They say that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. To that I say, education is once again the key to many of our problems. We first need to understand that education should never be perceived as an expense, but rather as the most essential investment. That being said, we need concrete measures. One of the most vital ones is the compulsory implementation of studying the Holocaust in the academic curriculum all throughout Europe. It is no longer enough to say that 6 million Jews were exterminated. Teachers and highly trained educators need to explain in depth to their students how a society can quickly transform from being an educated and cultivated one to embracing totalitarianism, and as Hannah Arendt said, to normalize evil. For that, we must never take for granted our sacred civil liberties. We have heard countless times that the creation of the State of Israel is only a reality because of the Shoah. I could not disagree anymore with that statement. Let's get this straight once and for all. The Shoah only took place because there was no Medinat Israel. That brings me to the second measure that needs to be enacted. All the European organizations and institutions should immediately cease funding for the Palestinian NGOs that work on behalf of the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. It is paramount to understand that in reality, most of these NGOs use their platforms to launder that money, in which the only real beneficiaries are their corrupt Palestinian leaders. This is not to say that one may not side with the needs of the Palestinian people, but by doing this, the real help will not end up in the right hands. Another very important concern that needs to be addressed is the boycott, divestment, and sanction movement, also known as the BDS. It is essential to understand that what truly hides underneath this so-called human rights movement is actually an organization that incites hate and violence. A couple of weeks ago, in my dear country, in Spain, thanks to the hard work of ACOM for bringing this issue to the courts, the Spanish Supreme Court ruled that public institutions that would adhere to the BDS campaign would be illegal and consequently setting a historic precedent. This is why I once again urge all MPs in Brussels and in their respective countries to not only cease support for such an anti-Semitic movement, such as the BDS, but most importantly, cut all ties. Lord Rabbi Sachs once said that anti-Semitism is one of the oldest viruses in the world, and that it unfortunately always finds its way to mutate. In medieval times, we were attacked and expelled on the basis of our religion. Later in the 19th and 20th century, the persecution was on the basis of our so-called race, which ended with the Holocaust. Now, it is through the lens of modern anti-Zionism. In other words, denying us, as Jews, the right of self-determination to have our own state in our ancestral homeland. Why is it that Israel is subject to such high levels of double standards when no other country is? How could it be that the only democracy of the Middle East has been condemned by the UN almost 100 times, whereas the tyrannical regime of the Republic of Iran only 12? How could Israel be systematically attacked and perceived as an apartheid and criminal state when over 20% of its population is not Jewish and enjoys the same equal rights under the law as any other Israeli Jew? Just this past week, a UN official stated that the push for nations to adopt the IRA definition of anti-Semitism should be suspended. Does not all of this indicate a similar pattern? How can we counterattack against all of this? To all of the things I have just mentioned, I say to my fellow young European Jews the following: wear your Magen Davids, your kippot, your hamsas, your Israeli flags proudly and confidently. Do not be ashamed for a second of who you are. Remember that while the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Romans, the Ottomans, and many more no longer exist, the Jewish people are still here. Do not apologize to anyone for being part of a common tradition, culture, and heritage with over 3,000 years of history. For way too long, our ancestors had to hide in order to survive. As Thomas Jefferson said, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. We are an extremely privileged generation to live with our individual liberties in such democratic countries all across this great continent, Europe. Let us never take that for granted and be grateful for living in the most prosperous time that mankind has ever seen. We are here to stay, and we're not going anywhere. Thank you very much, and Am Israel Chai.
Thank you, Juan. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our dinner. It has been a real pleasure having you join us. Tomorrow morning, our work on fighting anti-Semitism at our symposium starts at 9 o'clock sharp, right here. We will reset up the room. Looking forward to see you. Breakfast will take place at the patio